If your team ends up needing a wide receiver at some point during the 2025 NFL draft, but cannot get a guy early, do not worry. I have a diamond in the rough, Antonio Williams out of Clemson. This guy can get it done. He can play. We're going to talk about his game and a couple other more diamonds in the rough coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Guys, if you're listening on audio, please, whatever audio platform you use, Apple, Spotify, doesn't matter. Go ahead and subscribe. Hit automatic downloads, and please make sure that you leave a 5-star comment and support the show. We appreciate all the love and support. Guys, we got Dames Diamonds, wide receiver out of Clemson, Antonio Williams, safety from now for UNLV, 6-year senior, Jalen Catalon, and then the grave digger himself, Aaron Graves, interior defensive lineman out of Iowa. Guys, I'm telling you right now, you're going to want to stay tuned for these names. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Antonio Williams, guys, a young a true junior. He was supposed to be the top receiver for Clemson last year. He ended up getting hurt a little bit early in the season. And looking at his career, right, a young man that brings in around about 75% over his career of his passes, of his targets. He catches 75% of his targets. So what does that tell me? Number one, he is sure-handed and he is reliable. Listed as 5'11", 190 pounds. This young man played a lot in the slot early. His freshman year, 93% of his snaps were in the slot. Last year before he got hurt, 68% of his snaps were in the slot. What I loved about seeing him against Georgia, I think that was a big test for him. And against their top cornerback, he was able to get open a good bit. And not only that, he played a lot more on the outside. 66.7% of his snaps on passing downs or snaps of alignment were on the outside. 18 snaps outside, only 9 snaps inside at the slot position. And this young man was able to win, right? Yards per route run, 3.3. So he's getting down the field. And they use him in a variety of ways. He's sure-handed. He's got good speed, but he's a good route runner as well. But I think it was the best throw from Caden maybe in his career, that kind of corner route where like the DB's grabbing on them. People say it was good coverage. Then you see the backside, the end zone angle from the broadcast, and you saw the DB holding them. It was definitely pass interference. You could holding or pass interference, either one. I don't think they call either. And that was because he made an incredible grab, right, on an incredible throw. Shout out to Cade for the throw. And over the shoulder, he snagged it with both hands and got 2 feet in and on the sideline and everything. But he was able to win on the horizontal plane. He won in a multitude of ways. He got him, I think, a quick screen. He can get you yards after the catch. He's got good open field speed and burst. This is a player, I think, again, this is not last year's wide receiver class. We got a lot of things to shake out, right? But when you think about, okay, maybe you put him in the slot in the NFL offense. Could he be a Josh Downs type of player? Yes, he could. He can be a Josh Downs type of player. And I always say this. We say this on this pod when Keith is here. Situations matter the most for wide receivers. Wide receivers and quarterbacks, bar none, the 2 most important for situations. And if you have a wide receiver that's playing with lackluster quarterback play and that has to experience lackluster quarterback play, it's only the creme de la creme, the elite of the elitist, that can overcome that, right? We watched Marv, and this was a big discussion point last year. Wow, Malik Neighbors is ripping and running and like just setting college football on fire. His quarterback was a Heisman. His quarterback was accurate with great ball placement and arguably the best deep ball thrower in college football last year in Jaden Daniels. who also was selected second overall. Marvin Harrison's quarterback had to transfer because he was very uneven in his play. Now he's at Syracuse. He had a good week one, stuff like that. We'll see how long, you see how he matures and develops, so forth and so on. But last year, Kyle McCord wasn't good. So it's like you see the quality of targets matters. And Antonio Williams is not a guy that's been blessed with high quality targets, right? So I think if he was in a situation playing with some of the other top quarterbacks, think about if he's playing in Georgia with Carson Beck and the accuracy and ball placement and processing of that veteran quarterback, or playing with Shedeur Sanders, right? Heck, if he was at USC with Miller Moss, or LSU with Garrett Nussmeier, guys who showcased high level of accuracy and ball placement and dog, like, yes, I think he could be at worst a wide receiver 2 in those offenses. Have 1,100 yards, 7 to 8 touchdowns, get drafted 3rd round. Why not? I'm telling you now, guys. Yes, the draft capital is always, we always talk about this, man. You got to give, guys that get drafted in round 1, you give them grade. You if they don't start off well, you give them grades, all that type of stuff like that. But at the same time, you do find a lot of Puka Nacua, diamond in the rough, right? Like, just we've seen multiple guys get drafted later on after round 1 and ball out, guys. Could he? The name that comes to mind. Could he be? What game does he resemble to me? He's not the exact same type of route runner, but the play style is a little similar. And I think he plays a little bit bigger at the catch point, when he's given those opportunities. Ladd McConkey, a mixture of like Ladd McConkey and Ricky Pearsall. I think he could fall somewhere in there, right? And that was, of course, Ricky Pearsall, of course, prayers and blessings to him after the incident he experienced this past weekend and everything. Thank God that he's healthy and that he's okay. But Ricky Pearsall went round 1, and a lot of people didn't see that coming for San Fran. Felt like they were trying to hedge their bet just in case they traded Brandon Ayuk. Then you don't trade Brandon Ayuk, and you pay him, and now you still got Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing and stuff like that. So he went round 1. Ladd McConkey went top of the 2nd round. Again, you think about Tank Dell and Josh Downs. Both of those guys are 3rd round picks. So at the end of the day, yes, to me, Antonio Williams can get the job done. This is a good football player, and I promise you guys, I'm believing in his talent and his skill set. That's just my personal. That's me. I'm going to believe in that. I've watched him since he stepped on campus at Clemson. Living in the Carolinas, I see every Clemson game, and of course, I watch the film. This young man can get it done. So you talk about a diamond in the rough, a guy that you can get 3rd, maybe 4th round right now. Like I said, we'll see. Because if they keep feeding him targets and peppering him with targets, his stock will be, and not just can be, but it will be on the rise. But guys, listen, talking about a guy who just a diamond in the rough, 6-year senior, Jalen Catalon, a guy that has been completely forgotten. But he did say this past weekend against Houston, guys, don't forget about me in this safety class. Do not forget about me. So we're going to talk about Jalen Catalon and the type of performance he displayed in week 1 and why he's going to put himself back on the radar. That and more coming up next. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, on this very podcast, from things like preseason betting odds for the MVP in the NFL, preseason betting odds in college football, like the Heisman and the college football playoffs. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. And guess what, guys? You can cancel anytime you want, all right? How can you get in on this deal? DP's got you. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Safety for UNLV, Jalen Catalon. The young man spent his first 4 years in college football at the University of Arkansas, right? And he was one of the most violent, devastating heavy hitters in terms of tacklers in college football. Listed as 5'11", 205, 210 pounds. And this guy he's got in his career 7 interceptions, two touchdowns, 4 forced fumbles. He's 2020 was his best year, I would say, where he had 99 tackles, 4 PBUs, 2 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions, and 1 defensive touchdown. He transferred last year, last offseason, coming into the 2023 season, he transferred to Texas. And that was supposed to be a big-time opportunity for him where, like, he really could have shined. And, of course, Texas being a big-time program, big spotlight, all of that, right? He played a total of 7 games, and he got hurt again. And he's been battling injuries. That's why, for those, say, 6-year senior, DP, what are we doing? Like, I'm tired of these COVID kids. No, it's not. It wasn't a COVID situation particularly. He's battled injuries. And I think with that, you have to understand that he has to overcome that adversity. And in the game last week, right, against Donovan Smith, right, you heard me talk about the frustrating performance that he displayed after, like, so much hype came into him, especially for myself, off of the tape he put up in 2023. Against Houston, where Houston won 27, where UNLV beat Houston 27-7. Jalen Catalon had 4 tackles. He had 2 interceptions. One was a pick 6, and he had a PBU. This guy's a reliable tackler. He's really physical. Now he has that kind of, I would say maybe not Brian Branch build. He got a shorter, stockier build. Maybe a little bit similar to Jamal Adams. And I'm going to check Jamal Adams' height right now just to, get a better, feel for it. Jamal Adams is 6'1", so it's a little bit shorter than that. But kind of build-wise, he's kind of, built similar in terms of his body composition, things of that nature. And you think about the Georgia safeties like Javon Bullards and he's more muscular and built than Javon Bullard, but also Tyke Smith and those type of guys, right? They're still shorter, stout, playmakers. And with Catalon, he could play, over the top, but I think he's probably best utilized working downhill. You're talking about as a coverage defender, being able to play cover 1 robber, cover 3 where he shows too high, work down post snap, change the pitcher, change the levers of your safeties, and now he is roaming and roving in the middle of the field, trying to take away in breaking route slants, and with the ability. And we got to see how, again, he's got to hold up this year. I want to see if he keeps that level of physicality that has been his calling card this entire time. His calling card has been, I will punch you in the mouth. You will feel every hit I give you, right? Typically running backs who are physical. And I remember this, growing up myself, especially all through high school and everything else. Like, you get in your opponent's heads when you utter the phrases, I'm here for 4 quarters. Can you hit? Are you going to be able to hit and strike as physically imposing in the 4th quarter as you did in the first? Well, Jalen Catalon is one of those guys that can keep that same energy. He'll keep that energy up. All right. His energy doesn't change. And to see him make the plays on the football, he's always been a decent to solid to good playmaker on the football throughout his career. And I just think that at the end of the day, because he's a 6-year senior, he's got the injury concerns, people are going to completely forget about him when we get to April, and it's the 2025 NFL draft. And we're looking at teams that need safeties. And we're like, yeah, I don't know, man. It's 4th, 5th round. I don't know. I don't think there's anybody available. And I'm going to be sitting there shouting from the top of my lungs as long as he stays healthy. Jalen Catalon is right there. He's right there. And, one thing I will say I want to see him do, because he did a little bit throughout his career, is play in the nickel, play in the slot. If he can give you that, you tell him, because one thing we always talk about here, slot defenders, typically, you need to be a a solid to reliable run defender and tackler, right? Off the edge. You got to be able to deter that running back from bouncing it outside, or if it's zone, be able to flash your colors and make him cut up quickly into between the tackles into the teeth of your defense, where you have your linebackers and your defensive linemen. Jalen Catalon can do those things. And the other build, I think it's the Tampa Bay safety. And I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now, but you know who I'm talking about. And like, yes, that I'm pulling them up right now because I want to make sure I had it right. Antonio Winfield. And with Winfield, I think Winfield may be like a little bit taller, maybe, but again, he's got a similar build. I'm checking his height right, 5'9", 203. That is perfect. That's the comp. Antonio Winfield, and I think Winfield has like a little bit better instincts in coverage, especially, he plays over the top, he plays underneath, he does everything for that defense in that secondary, right? But point blank, the point is that's kind of the comp, in my opinion, for Jalen Catalon, is that you look at Antonio Winfield and you say, listen, can you be a similar player? I just need you to be just part of the cloth, not the full fabric, not the full cloth. You don't have to be cut exactly like you don't have to be a replica of the cloth that is Antonio Winfield. But can you be cut from it? Right? Can we get a little cut from him, a little cut from the garment? Like, yes, I think you could, and I think he brings similar abilities, right? Similar height, weight, and everything else, man. So I just look at it like this. Jalen Catalon, again, a guy that if you didn't watch that game, you didn't even know he was still in college football. He was, and at his peak, he was one of the best safeties in college football. He was a guy that people are like, man, second round, he's physical. He what's the phrase we always like to use? Restore the feeling. Jalen Catalon restored that old school feeling, that Bob Sanders violent play with his hair on fire. If you're working the middle of the field as a receiver, keep your head on the swivel. Nowadays, wide receivers don't keep their head on the swivel. If they do, it's just to read the route coverage. I mean, read the defensive drops from the spot droppers in zone. But they're not keeping their head on the swivel for incoming defenders like that, unless they're, not because they're afraid of getting hit half the time. It's because, hey, I want to make sure I can catch this, secure the ball, and then make this guy miss, and I can get yards after the catch. That's what they're worried about. Back in the day, in the early 2000s, baby, yes, in the peak of football, where it was a grown man's game, you had to be on alert, work in the middle of the field, right? When you got Troy Polamalu, you got Ed Reed, you got Sean Taylor, rest in peace. You know what I mean? You got all these heavy hitters, Bob Sanders. You got Ray Lewis and Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs. You got all these guys, man, that will lay the lumber and put you on your back and drop you. And what's the phrase that coaches use? Separate ball from body. I need that back in my life, man. I need that back in my life, guys. I need that physicality back in football. And Jalen Catalon brings that. So again, he's got to stay healthy. If he plays a full 12, 13 games, or however many, bowl game included, if he does that, go to the combine. Let's say he runs 4.5, does his thing there, right? Again, we're putting the cart before the horse, whatever. But point is, we get there, and he does his thing, interviews well, his medicals come out well. Who's to say that he can't work himself in as a back in the third round, early fourth round pick, and be a contributor, whether it's special teams early on, third safety, second safety on the team. I just think that there's value with him, and that's why he made my diamonds in the rough after week one. Guy, we're going to do this every week. We're going to do this every single week. Diamonds in the rough. Who played well that nobody's talking about? Your boy is going to have you covered. But guys, talking about having you covered, we got to talk about a grave digger, man. Interior defensive lineman from Iowa. Yes, they keep the defenders going and flowing. Shout out to my guy, Keith Sanchez. Aaron Graves, outstanding performance in week one. We're going to get into that coming up next. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your number one ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or you get your money back. Why? Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts that you need at the prices that you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your number one ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers. My final diamond in the rough, the grave digger himself, interior defensive lineman Aaron Graves from Iowa. Talk about a historic performance for that program. Aaron Graves had 3 sacks versus Illinois State, and his 3 sacks are the most by an Iowa player in a season opener since Larry Blue had 3 versus North Carolina State on August 29th, 1992. Guys, I was just a couple years old at that time. I'm not going to tell you how much, because I'm not about to age myself for you guys, all right? But you get the picture. Aaron Graves had himself a day, and this was a guy that I was had my eyes on entering the season, because when you're 6'4", you're 300 pounds listed as, and the way that he moves on pass rush reps, like I see an impact player here. I see an impact player, but not just see an impact player, man. Like the power, the push-pull technique, the bull rush, the understanding how to reduce surface area and soften edges with his strikes in his hands. He's got some strong hands, to when he lands punches, the offensive linemen, the blockers, they feel that. He can, like I said, soften those angles and those edges to work the shoulders of those offensive linemen. I really appreciate that with his game. I absolutely do, guys. And again, 3 sacks, working the interior defensive line. And that's the quickest way. The quickest way to the quarterback is up the face of the offensive line, right through the middle in the interior. And when you have a guy like this, and don't get me wrong, the reason why he's a diamond in the rough, no one knew about Aaron Graves early, unless you're an Iowa fan. And secondly, this is a guy that is going to be supplanted late and way down the board right now. If he was declared, I think he has one more year of eligibility. I think he is a junior right now, so he is a junior. He is a junior. He's a true junior. From the looks of it, so he has one more year of eligibility. So he could return for 2025 season, the 2026 NFL draft. But if it was to declare for the 2025 NFL draft, there's a lot of this is a good interior defensive line group, and we all know this, right? We all know this. We're aware of this. So at the end of the day, for me, when I look at Aaron Graves and what he's done and what he brings to the table, this young man is talented. He's physical. He's got enough quickness and lateral agility and movement skills. I like the ankle flexion and kind of hip swivel at the top of his rush when he's clearing that outside shoulder. I said, okay, Mr. Graves, I see you, grave digger. I'm all in. I'm all for it. And I want to see more. And I'm telling you guys, I'm excited for this kid. I'm excited for this young man. And looking at their schedule, right? We always talk about moments. Okay, you got Iowa State this Saturday, so that's a big time because they have a good offense. So that's a big time, and they got an athletic quarterback who's a true sophomore. I think Rocco is his name. And he's mobile. He can do a lot of things. Chasing him down is not going to be easy. Then they got Troy. They got Minnesota. My guy Max Brosmer over there. They'll be on the road. They go on the road to face Ohio State. Then they have Washington. They got on the road at Michigan State. They'll face Wisconsin, who typically has a good interior offensive line. Maryland as well. So he's got that Ohio State game. Talk about it all the time. You got Heisman moments for Heisman candidates. You got draft moments. We have draft moments for draft prospects. And I think that Ohio State game on October 5th on the road in Ohio State, if he can walk out of there with 2 or 3 sacks, get matched up on one of the top interior offensive linemen, Donovan Jackson, if he's healthy and ready to go, by then I expect him to be. Oh man, if Aaron Graves can have a day against Donovan Jackson and against that interior offensive line and get to Will Howard and muddy the pocket, make him feel his presence. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, baby. We're cooking with gas now. We're cooking with gas now, guys. And that's how I view that. Aaron Graves, aka the Grave Digger. That's what I'm calling him, the Grave Digger. Play on the name. He's digging the graves. This kid can get it done, and he has a monster in the middle type of game. And I just want to see that continue with consistency. And if he keeps that up all season, right? I'm not saying he got to have 15 sacks. Interior defensive linemen, you don't typically see that, right? But if he can have 7.5, 8 sacks, why not, right? Last year, like in 2022, 2 sacks. 2023, 1.5 sack and a forced fumble. All right, already here, he has 3 sacks. He's almost matched that production from over 2 years worth in one game. I want to see him, and I think they have having that game they have coming up this week against Iowa State. Again, if you can get back there and make some plays, get a couple more, get another sack and a half, like then you're talking about in 2 games he has 4.5 sacks. Now, unfortunately, people box score scout, so yeah, it is what it is, right? But if he can go out there and handle business, why can't he be an impact player? Why can't he be rising the ranks? And he might have been thinking, like, I'm gonna go back one more year, but then sees his draft stock and teams to say, listen, we'll draft you in the 3rd round. We'll draft you in the 2nd, right? Why not? Okay, why not? I think he has the power, the arm length, the frame. Like I said, the ankle flexion and hip swivel, right? For a 300-pounder, he has that. He has those things. And I think with that, you just feel good about it and you feel comfortable with it. But guys, that is our show. The diamonds in the rough, the grave digger himself, interior defensive lineman Aaron Graves, safety Jalen Catalon from UNLV, Graves from Iowa, and then Clemson's star wide receiver right now, their top wide receiver, Antonio Williams. I'm telling you guys, the wide receiver play is not their biggest issue. It's other things. So shout out to those guys. Diamonds in the rough for week 1. Love what I've seen from them. Hope to see more of it to where they're not diamonds in the rough anymore. The spotlight is growing and they are climbing the ranks and people are taking notice. But thank you so much, guys, for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our every day. Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. As I said, the front of the show, I'm going to say here at the end, if you're listening on audio, please, on the audio platform that you use, whether it's Apple or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review, comment, share the podcast. Just continue to support it. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. I got the best NFL draft / college football / NFL football content that you need to be listening to on a 5-day-a-week basis, even with a couple extra bonus episodes each week. All right, on tomorrow's episode, guys, we're getting ready to preview the games for Friday. So I think we have BYU and SMU, Preston Stone, right? Guy that was on the list, he kind of dropped down, didn't play a lot in week 1. I think they had a subpar competition, so they didn't, they took him out of the game, things like that nature. But can he get back in the top 10 list? Can he knock Dylan Gabriel down, right? So we're going to talk about that. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.